Alright, what's going on, guys? Out to the internet. I'm TheDecodedDingo. I'm back with another video. This is another Visual Basic tutorial. As you can see, only this time I've got everything laid out so I can spend more time actually properly going through it with you. Okay, so let's get into this. Today's tutorial is going to be on variables. Variables are pretty much the basis of anything that you make. You're gonna need them. Where even besides from saying hello world, of course. No, you won't just need it for hello world. You probably... No, there's message boxes. Okay, ignore that. You won't need it to write hello world, but it's needed for anything more complex than hello world. So what is a variable, you might ask? Well, first off, I'm going to mention there are three types of variables that I'm going to be talking about this. We've got global variables, we've got local variables, and we've got public shared variables. Normally, people would only go into global and local, but I wanted to go into public shared as well because I'm different and I like to be different. No, but there's something that's really handy if you're going to make anything that's a multi-form thing, and that's going to be in here as well. Okay, so a variable. I've mentioned the three types of variables, so what is a variable? A variable is a data location which can have a value attached to it which can vary, granted within the certain parameters of the data type that you assign it. So if you assign it, let's say an integer, you can't put a string into it, it can only hold an integer. And likewise, if you say have a boolean variable, you can't try and put in a string of hello world into that. That can only be true or false. So now that I've given you that, one thing as well, I'm also going to go into constants. Constants are pretty much like variables, only they only have a single value. They can't change whatsoever. Unless... No, there's no way to change it. Okay, so let's get into the code example. What I've got here is a button for a global variable, a local variable, and the public shared one down here. What these are going to do is this is going to count up from 0, no, well, it'll be 1. It will count up from global variable, will update here to 1, to 2, to 3, to 4, you get the picture. And this one is sort of your really primitive data validation sort of thing. If the value of this is not hello with a capital H, then it will output a message box. First thing that pops ahead. And this is going to be another incrementing variable here, which is going to be done on another form. So let me first get into what each type of variable is before I actually show you that. I was nearly about to show you that without telling you about it, and that would have been slightly confusing if I went into it after. Okay, so like I said, you've got your global variable, you've got a local variable, and you've got public shared variables. Global variables are non-exclusive. Well, they're non-exclusive in the terms of the form that you're using. If you put a global variable in there, it could be used anywhere in that form, as opposed to a local variable, which is exclusive to the routine or function or wherever you put it into. So if you put it into a subroutine for first number, or the subroutine, or you put it into form load, which you guys have probably seen already, put it into form load, you can't then access it in a function that you've made to add two numbers together. It's exclusive to form load, which is quite good for smaller things. It has its ups and downs, really. If you're going to be using it twice in different routines, you might as well go with a global variable. There's no... People might argue that you can pass it using past parameters, but that's something for a later episode. Something to whet your appetite there slightly. But it'll be a bit too much of a hassle when you can just have a global variable. Surely someone's going to change that opinion and say, "Oh, you're stupid. That's completely wrong." But yeah. And then you've got finally you've got the public shared variables. What these do is they link two forms together. So as you can see, I've got form 1 up here and form 2, which is just simply a click me button. Let me just edit that like that. And every time we click that, it's going to update that. So let's go into the code. I've got the variable types and constants up here, and I'm going to go into them after I show you the concepts of a variable. Okay, so this is how our global variable is going to look. Just here, dim. You've got the dim that says that there's going to be a variable there. Next, you've got the name. I just chose global variable. That can be pretty much anything so long as it isn't actually part of the syntax, because then it'll go all confused. Then you've got as, and following that you've got the data type that you want. I'm going to go into your basic ones of those later at the end of the episode, but for now this is going to be an integer that can just hold a whole number. So next we've got in the form 1 load is, don't really need to look at that much, it's just saying on the load to make form 2 actually visible. Okay, so this is where we get into the actual coding for it. What we're saying here is global variable, which is the one that we linked up here. The value of that is going to start off at 0 because we haven't assigned anything. We could assign it, say, 5, then it's going to start off at 5. So global variable, which is equal to 5, which is what it's holding now, equals global variable incremented by 1. So each time we press it, it will increment by 1. So it'll be 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and so forth and so forth. But after that we've got the label 1.text equals global variable. That's just outputting it so we can actually get a visual representation of what's happened. What have I done? Successful build. That's what I did. I had all of these up here to show you the data types, but I hadn't used them. Okay, so every time we click this, starting at 5, it's going to increment to 6, to 7, to 8, to 9, to 10. Okay, so like I said, it's just going to increment by 1. You have everything else you could do with that. So if that was a string, you could just have label 1.text equals the string, or the literally we can flip this round, and what we mean is global variable equals label 1.text. Whatever's in label 1.text will be the value of global variable. So that would be kind of odd because it'd be no, it won't be incrementing by 1. It'll be incrementing by 1, but then we bring it back down to whatever label 1.text was. A second. Secondly, we have our local variables. I've done this as a string. As you can see, it's actually inside of the subroutine that we've got here for a button handling click. So it's exactly the same to be I forgot the word. It'll come back to me at a random point in the future. But when you actually saying, hey, here's a variable, you're going to do it in the exact same way. You've got dim, then your variable name, which could, like, once again, could be anything so long as it's not syntax. Then we've got as, and then the data type you want. As I said, this one's a string. Then you don't have to have it then, but you can call it later on, like I could have down here. Nope, put in twice. That would be exactly the same as having like dim local variable string equals hello. It's just an extra line of code which isn't particularly needed. Okay, so we've got that. That's saying that local variable is a string variable which equals to hello. That cannot be used in any other routine. So I'll just prove it to you. If I try to type in here, if I could spell today, local variable. No. Equals label 1.text. We will get an error message right there, see, error message. Local variable is not declared. It may be inaccessible due to its protection level. It's bringing up that error because that's outside of the routine. There you go. That's a local variable doing its job. But if we look at the rest of the code for this now, we've got simple if statement. If textbox1.text equals local variable, that's just saying if the value that we type into here when we click the click me button there is equal to the value of local variable, which we declared up here as hello with a capital H, then this is going on to what will actually happen if that condition is met. We'll have message box output saying a string of correct, else, which is saying if that. You also have else if, which will be giving it another conditional, but this is for another one. So we've got else, so if that isn't met, message box for incorrect. So if we just look at that, if just to be stupid I type in hello without the capital, incorrect. Let's change that to a capital, shall we? Hello. Correct. There we can see the local variable doing its job. If we had that up here as a local variable, we won't have been able to do that. Okay, so last but not least is the drum roll, please. Public shared variable. Last but not least, we have the public shared variable, and that is on form 2. What we're saying here is public shared pubchar as integer. Oh. So I've done it wrong. Imports. What do I call this? Variables. Variables dot form 2. There we go, that's imported that. So what we're going to do is, what that's doing is it's importing from the variables file, which is what I named this, as you can see here, the project. We're importing form 2 to be used in this form. Okay, I had to have a panic attack there and I just paused it for 5 to make sure I was actually doing the right thing. Okay, so what we need to do is, on the imports, up here we're importing from the project variables form number 2, which is this one, the one that has the button on it. And for this we have a global variable, which is public shared, which means that it can be shared across forms. You can't do this with usual variables because you'll come up with an error message saying that the probably drinking Coke that the variable is private, which you can't use it then, there's no point. So we've got it as public shared, and what we're saying is it's an integer type by the name of pubchar, which is just short for public shared. So pubchar equals pubchar plus 1, so it's just another incrementing one. And then this should work. Yeah, on label3.click. So we're just going to have to click the button just because I can't bother to go into a way of doing it automatically. Laziness for the win, even in the middle of a tutorial. Okay, so yep. So I forgot to go through that. So we're saying that on the label3.click subroutine, got label3.text equals the value of the pubchar variable, which is going to be our one from over here that increments by 1. So if we just take a look at that, it's currently 0. Click here, 1. Just to show it's not doing it here, rapidly clicking that. Then if I were to press this 4 times, it would be up to 5. 2, 3, 4. There we go. Up to 5. So that is the 3 different types of variable. Up here I was going to show we also have the constants. These are, instead of dim, you would say const, then the name of it, then the data type, then you'd have what is it equal to. So that's not going to change. You'd call that as you would a variable. So you'd say label1.text equals hello, which is named a constant, and that will always equal 3 no matter what we do up here with it. And last but not least, if I just close down all of this, is different variable types. There are quite a few variable types, but these are the ones you're going to be using the most. You've got your integer. I've just shown them here as they're in green because I commented them out so it would actually work. But what you've got here is your most basic ones. You've got dim1 as integer. Integer is going to be handling the majority of your numbers. So anything numeric that you do will be in an integer, so long as the value that you're holding is a whole number. If it isn't a whole number, then you'll want to go on and use a single. They can handle a floating point, so that's 3.141, which is pi, if any of you guys realised that it was something and forgot what it was. So that you'd use single if you want to hold a floating point number, and a integer if you wanted to handle a whole number. So then on dim3 we've got boolean. These are true or false. Most people, you could use something like an integer and just have 1 or 2, but it's so much easier using boolean, the boolean approach. Off the top of my head I can't actually think of anything to use it with, which is annoying because I was using it today for my college coursework. I was using a heck of a lot of boolean variables and I can't remember what any of them were for. There we go, password protection. Say if you password protection in a while loop. While hello is equals true, do loop through the code until something's right and brings the variable of hello to true. So boolean is true or false. You might also know from other concepts like boolean algebra for computers. It'll either be a 1 or a 0, an A or a B. It also counts with binary, but I'm not going into all of that. And then you've also got dialog results. This will be used a lot less common, but you've got different styles of message box. So just an example, you'd have the yes/no message box. You would use a dialog result variable to handle what the user actually presses, whether that be yes, no, or cancel, as in dialog result dot yes dot no dot cancel, and use it from there. So if dialog result dot yes equals true, then do so and so. Right, move on to the next form or exit the program. So the last two here, the string and character data types. String is going to be holding all of your lettering, as we saw in yonder back here. Dim local variable as string hello. That, like I said, it's going to be holding any of your words. If you're just going to be using a single letter, you want to use the character, as it can only hold a single letter, so it's infinitely just more useful for that. Yeah. You might as well, if you're only going to be handling single letters, to go with the right data type for it. So that is pretty much everything that I wanted to go through in this tutorial. So thank you for watching. Next time will be if statements, if I ever get around to it, because I know there was a very big gap between hello world and variables, but it's not like anyone watched the last one anyway. Anyway, so thanks for watching, guys and gals of the interwebs. I've been TheDecodedDingo, humbled that you've got this far into the video, and I hope you've learnt something. If I made any mistakes, don't hesitate to tell me, because I'll take it well. I'll take it well, because I'm expecting mistakes. Yeah. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys.